Aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Hawaiiverse podcast, a podcast that supports local by singing all three verses of Hawaii Pono'i. I'm your host, Kamaka Diaz, and our guest today might know a thing or two about singing the Hawaiian national anthem for school every morning because she is also a product of the Hawaiian immersion program. I'm not sure if you guys are ready for this episode. There's going to be a lot of knowledge being dropped. I encourage you all to really listen intently today, and after this episode is done, just reflect a little bit, talk with a friend, and think about some of the things we talk about. All right, episode 10, here we go. We're in double digits. Our guest today comes from the BIG Island and is someone whom I respect and admire so much. She is a Kanaka Maoli native Hawaiian speaker, musician, activist, entrepreneur, Hawaiian culture perpetuator, and someone I am happy to call my friend. But when you ask her what she is, she will simply say she's just Hawaiian. She is Ku'ulei Perreira Keawekane. Aloha, Ku'ulei. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, aloha. That was a beautiful intro. Mahalo for putting that together.
Of course, I had to stand up for that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited for this episode because this is our first time meeting in person. We've been friends, just through Instagram. And you actually went to Punana with my sister.
Yes.
So we never actually crossed paths as adults.
Right.
But now, we're going to have this space where we can share so much good mana'o and, get pretty real. I don't like to say real talk. I feel like that is overused. It loses the authenticity of it. So I just think like deep talks. That's how I like to see it.
Kuka is a good word. I mean, that's such a deep and profound word that maybe we can get into a little later.
Okay. Well, I love hearing your mana'o, so let's get right into it.
For sure.
So if people follow you on social media and they see what you're about, you have a lot of good mana'o, good thoughts, this knowledge. You're like a well of knowledge, and I want to extract all the water from your brain and however you think about that.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you gain such a solid foundation? Like, where does all of this come from?
Honestly, it's the Ike Kupuna. I think in my actual mo'oku auhau and through my actual genes, I come from really wise people. And that's a little bit of a pun because my kupuna is John Henry Wise, and he was a senator in Hawaii's aloha aina guy. But iko oia it's actually actual mo'oku auhau. Like the literal knowledge that I know or that I learned, yes, comes from school. I did go to Kamehameha schools, and I was afforded to have this really, really great like access to Ike for sure. I was kind of one of the kolohe kids, like super late to class with my ukulele, not really paying attention a lot of the times. But just the kumu that are there and the attention that they can afford to give the keiki is just super awesome. I also come from the punana, like you do. The punana means nest, but we're talking about the Hawaiian immersion school. My Ike comes from an actual practice of asking for kupuna intervention. Like that's the root of it. Like beyond the surface stuff of your lineage of what school you went to and what you learned. The root of it is that in my deepest, darkest, hardest times of my life, I dig deep and ask for help. Like from my literal kupuna by name, and also have a really close relationship with Akua and my own spiritual roots. So I just, it's a combination of a lot of things, but just mahalo for seeing me and for seeing the mana'o that comes through my platform. All of that Ike belongs to the kupuna I come from, and so I'm just really grateful.
That's amazing. So you grew up in Hilo. And you went to the Hawaiian immersion program, and I like to think my foundation also came from that system, the Punana Leo, which is the Hawaiian immersion preschool. And then you went to a Hawaiian school in Kamehameha. And then after that, you graduated, and where did you go?
I spent a little bit of time in Washington, about a year to be exact. It was just too cold and too far away from my mole, like too far away from my roots. So I came home. I spent like 4 years trying to get a 2-year degree. So like school was
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Like really, really, really hard for me. And super stoked to have passed. But yes, I did do that. I spent some time learning from Pele Ka'io, who is my kumu, my beloved kumu at the Hawaii Community College. I spent a little bit of time dancing for him in his halau before my music kind of took off and I had to reprioritize and do music stuff. But yeah, that's kind of been my journey. But definitely Pana'ewa raised me. Definitely Pana'ewa raised me.
Yeah, because you seem very rooted and true to your Hawaiian culture. And that's something I admire a lot because I went to the whole program. I lived in a Hawaiian household, but I never really practiced much. I never really had much interest in doing all the Hawaiian things, you know. I thought, like, why do I have to do this? It's so annoying. Why do I have to Olelo Hawaii every single day with my dad and sing all 3 verses of Hawaii Pono'i, right? So, and when you're young, you don't, you know, you're not really thinking about that stuff. You don't see the importance of it. I talked about this with Kamaka Kehau Fernandez in one of the episodes because he also went to Hawaiian immersion school. And I feel like it's a common theme.
It is.
But for you, I feel like you kind of knew who you were in your culture at an early age because even before you went off to college, it seems like you were already pretty rooted. Yeah.
You know, I have a kua. I call them kua. Like kua means support system or backbone, but like my auntie, her name is Pohai or Tiffany Kakalia. She's one of my kua, like one of my spine people. She and Tammy Perreira, along with my mom and just some of the awesome wahine of my life, have really held me accountable to oia'i'o and truth. And then also to really developing what I am and who I am in relationship to who I come from and what land base I come from. So these conversations I've been having since I was young because of these kua, these wahine people in my life. And actually, I just kind of hope to be one of those kua as I grow. And I think I am for some young people now.
I think you are, even to me. Like you're younger than me, but I look up to you.
Wow.
You know, I don't think it doesn't have to do with age and whatever, but just because you're so active in the community and you always speak your truth. And that's something, whether you agree with, you know, everything you do or not, that's something that you can definitely respect. Yeah. But I totally want to just kind of pick your brain, and
for sure,
I want everybody to just learn and just educate themselves in this episode because I know I'm going to learn a lot just speaking with you on this. Okay, so a big question that I really want to ask, because I know a lot of people struggle with this. What does it mean to be a Hawaiian?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think it depends on who you ask. They'll give you different answers that are very valid. I believe that quote unquote, like, being Hawaiian is definitely a spirit. It does have to do with aloha. It does have to do with mo'oku auhau. So some
genealogy.
Genealogy, yes, mahalo for
I'll
translating.
Yes,
mahalo.
You
know, hiki, but then halae kapu'ulana and all you guys is just, what did they say?
Yeah, I don't want to have to put subtitles on this.
For sure.
But hokaila makemake wau hanikai podcast mako lolo Hawaii valeno. Like one day I want to do a podcast only in Hawaii.
Let's do
Hawaii,
it.
so
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. If we gotta find somebody to do subtitles first.
Yeah. Kako. I forgot the question.
Yeah, so what does it mean to be Hawaiian?
Yeah, okay. So I believe that it does take like ancestral root, like to know, I guess, like the whole 1778 thing, like if you're kupuna, we're here, yeah, okay, but no, if you can know your mo'oku auhau and trace your lineage back to, I mean, like the kumulipo, yeah, okay, but like back to the kupa aina, like back to the people who lived on this aina before cement was introduced.
Yeah, or
like,
before Captain Cook discovered the islands in 1778.
Yes.
That's what she was referring to.
Yes, mahalo. Oh, I just come with me everywhere. Because people are like, what are you saying?
I'm your interpreter.
What does that mean? Yes, mahalo. Yeah, because there are so many different definitions on what a Native Hawaiian is, and a lot of time that definition works against Hawaii's. So, like, according to the government, I think it's like if you're not 50% Hawaiian or more, you're not Native Hawaiian. You're literally, I mean, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands is kind of like operating on that. Anyway, that's for another day. But to me, being Hawaiian does require the koko. Like, it does require that you have like the relationship. And koko means blood, but I'm talking
I'm
about
slacking.
I'm talking about like you have to be Hawaiian in your bones. Like your kupuna, your old kupuna have had to been buried in this ground generations ago, and you have to relate to Hawaii, not just the culture but the land base itself. Like you have to have pili na aina. Like that's part of the
like a relationship to the land.
yes, and that's part of the kuleana, or the responsibility, and also the privilege of being Hawaiian is you gotta relate to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I just wanted to really quickly say that the word Hawaiian translated into Hawaii is just Hawaii, because Hawaiian people and Hawaiian land are not separate of each other. Like the mana of the aina is the mana of the kanaka, and
like
our relationship to
the
each
power.
other, yes, and our relationship to each other comes as one. So it's a multifaceted question, but to me it means that it means always wanting to know more about who you are as a Native person. It means always wanting to be better at articulating yourself in Hawaiian, like not just the language but the worldview. You know, it means always working toward sovereignty, but like sovereignty of the self and sovereignty of the food. Yes, political sovereignty, but sovereignty of the whole being. Like that's what it means to be Hawaii for me. So
Yeah.
it's just all of those things.
And you bring up a good point how Hawaii and Hawaiian people are one and the same because we come from the land. That
Yes.
if you believe the Hawaiian history is that we all came from Kalo, right? From Haloa. So it makes sense when you say that to me. And if people are kind of confused, like, what do they mean? How can you be from the land? Like,
Yeah.
do your research and you hear the rich Hawaiian history and how it goes way beyond or past, behind. What direction are we? Before.
No, exactly.
Captain
exactly.
Cook. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Mahalo.
that's very interesting. And, you know, a lot of people always, you know, quantify Hawaiian through blood, you know, and to me, I always thought it goes beyond that. You know, you don't have to be Hawaiian or have Hawaiian blood to be Hawaiian or live in the Hawaiian ways. I mean, it's a separate argument from being local and being Hawaiian. You know, you can be born in Hawaii and not be Hawaiian. You know, you can eat Hawaiian food, and when we're talking about Hawaiian food, we're not talking about spam musubis, Portuguese sausage, eggs and rice. It's actual native Hawaiian food, you know, kalo, wala, all those things. So there's these very like small nuances that just separate all these questions that it's so confusing as a Hawaiian, as a young kid growing up. It's like, okay, what is Hawaiian? What is local? Like it's just so hard to navigate through these things, and the only way to really figure it out is, like you said, be curious and ask questions, ask your kupunas, learn about yourself and learn about others.
Yeah, the history is also really important. I just want to just really quickly mention that in Hawaii, in our constitutional monarchy, you could move here and be naturalized as a Hawaiian subject. So like John Henry Wise, my kupuna kane, Kualua, he was like half Hawaiian and half German, and his dad came from Germany. Julius Weiss came from Germany, and so he wasn't Hawaiian ethnically, but he was Hawaiian nationally. So his nationality was Hawaiian.
Okay.
So that's also very real, because there's that understanding that the Kingdom of Hawaii still exists, and so like there's that truth that somebody who is not ethnically Hawaiian can still claim Hawaiian through their like subjectship.
Yeah,
you know?
I wrote about it in one of my blog posts, which I turned into a book for when I was in the Peace Corps, because I always equated just like being Hawaiian and being American to nationality, nothing more. Because I'm Hawaiian, you know, but through nationality, we're technically American, right? So that's how I always separated them.
Yeah, for sure. Have you heard of like de facto and de jure law?
No, I feel like I've seen that.
It's super interesting, and I wanted to say this because when you said that and I said I meant to say no. But
that's just a Hawaii thing where you just say yeah.
Like how I just did. Yeah.
No, yeah.
For sure. But yeah, the de facto law is law that is in place but is not lawfully true. And de jure law is law that is lawfully true but that is not in place or like being enacted. So like according to the documents, the actual legal documents, Hawaii is not annexed to America. It's like the narrative is the joint resolution is enough to annex one nation to another nation. So let's continue on towards statehood and annexation and all those things. And that's what happened. But people are realizing that the joint resolution is not enough a document to secure our annexation.
So it's not valid?
Right.
So, okay, so quick history. So in 1893, we were overthrown illegally.
That began that was the beginning of our illegal occupation.
And then in 1896, right? Is that when we were annexed?
I think 1896 is when Hawaiian language was banned in schools.
Oh, that's when it was banned.
And it's possible that annexation happened then.
Okay.
I don't have the years down pat. I'd like to, but
okay.
But yeah, it's a total long history. We could do a whole podcast just on the history.
Yeah.
But it's like...
Well, it's so crazy because a lot of people don't know the history.
I know.
Even
I know.
people that grow up here.
I know. One of my holiday friends actually just reached out to me and was like, we got to make a documentary on what actually the political status of Hawaii is. And I think that that's a really good idea because it has to be talked about. We got to talk about it. I mean, I think to kind of conclude this portion of our conversation on like Hawaii statehood and politics, it's like we just need to understand that there is an ongoing debate on the legitimacy of Hawaii's statehood and relationship to America, like ongoing.
Yeah.
And so like let's look into that more. Let's commit to like really looking more into that. Let's Google terms like de jure law, de facto law, annexation, joint resolution. Let's Google things like what does it take to annex one country to another country, and because you'll find that a treaty is necessary. Yeah. Is there a treaty? Because there's not.
Yeah. And the craziest thing about all this is that I forget which president, maybe Clinton or whatever, they admitted that what they do is wrong.
For sure.
They illegally occupied Hawaii and they say sorry, and that's all.
Literally, it's called the apology bill.
The apology bill. It's crazy. They're just like, okay, sorry, we did that. Okay, let's continue on with our lives.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like every time I do a podcast, my thoughts are so scattered and I just lose people, and that's cool, But for the people who are still hanging in there, I wanted to say personally that the occupation of our aina, some people call it the overthrow, but the occupation of our land has to do with sugar. Like the greed for the money that could be made from the sugar that we grew on our aina aloha. And so I'm dealing with a bunch of health issues right now. I'm just I gained a lot of weight and I'm just not doing well, like medically. So I gotta like adjust my eating and like do all these things. But I have this addiction to sugar, and I'm working on decolonizing that understanding of like why I have an addiction to sugar, using the idea that or using the truth. Like, okay, the question is, how can I step away from my addiction to sugar, knowing that sugar is the thing that catalyzed the overthrow of our nation? Wow. Like that catalyzed the illegal occupation of our nation, So I'm just in this geek rabbit hole of...
That's heavy.
Yeah, for sure. Just looking into it, But
yeah, and sugar is an interesting topic as well, because that was something that the media used to have people buy to. Okay, this is my own opinion. I think that the government, all that, they want people to be sick, right? Whether that's we're talking about what's going on right now or going way back. But if you look at sugar, they said that sugar was good for you. They said soda was good for you. And I could be wrong. I'm not. Yeah, it's plant based. I'm not a scientist, but from talking to other people and having this conversation, that's what I heard. They used to say that sugar is good for you and people should eat more sugar, and that's how people get addicted to it.
Wow.
It's like it's all of these things. It makes you so curious to really think about what's going on. Have we been brainwashed since I don't know how long ago? And yeah, it's crazy, but we'll move on because I'm getting way too into this.
As you should be, stay curious, y'all.
Yeah.
I really feel like that.
Okay, so I know you're really involved in the community and with activism. So I'm curious to know, how does one become an activist?
Short answer is that you don't really sign up to be an activist, or at least I didn't.
You don't need an OHA card?
You don't need an OHA card. Yeah. I like the term activated. You know, I think like activism is like a state of being, and activated is like a shift in state, like from idle to activated, you know? So I guess the one-liner is like, if you're Hawaii, if you live on Hawaii, if you're in relationship to Hawaii land and water, aka if you live on it and drink it, do you really have an option? Like, do you really have an option but to stand in protection of those things? I think like for Hawaii people, there is no option. We are our aina, so we will protect our aina. Sometimes even better than we protect our personal selves. And that's just a natural thing. Yeah. So I am Hawaiian, therefore I protect Hawaii. Like that's the thing that makes sense for me. You know, and that's not something that I thought about for very long. It's not something that I sat down and ruminated over.
Did a pro and cons list.
No. It's just like, I'm about a little bit gas inside or drinking water. I think we better do something. You know,
yeah.
It's not an option. It's not an option.
I think for us being Hawaiian and rooted to the land, it's like we have this connection that it's almost indescribable. It's hard to explain. It's like this feeling where if somebody throws trash on the aina, on the land, you hurt.
You feel like, it. You feel it in your bones.
That's
in
one
your
of
body.
my biggest pet peeves. I'm kind of like, I can feel.
I know, me
I can
too.
feel the
I feel
anger
it too.
in me just speaking
too.
about this, like littering. And that's such a, I don't want to say minimal thing, but in comparison to like, you know, the water situation, in comparison to a lot of the things that people do to desecrate the land.
Right.
That small thing irks me. Just
because
of our connection.
No, it is. It is. And also Hawaii people like you and I, Kamaka, we're very Hawaii. Like, I mean, yes, in our blood and in our bones and through our mo'oku auhau, and yes, because we learned how to speak Hawaiian at a young age. But in our mauli, like in the essence of who we are, we're very Hawaii. And so we understand kauna. You know, kauna meaning hidden
like
meaning.
Hidden, yes.
Like if something, if you're talking about one bird flying to multiple flowers, you're talking about like the bird, you know what I'm saying, flying to multiple flowers and pollinating the flowers and having multiple seeds from the different flowers. You know what I'm saying? But so anyway, what I'm saying is that one small thing represents a huge thing. In general, through Hawaii worldview thinking. So the person throwing a trash is not just the person throwing a trash. For Hawaii people, we know that person who lives on Hawaii or is occupying Hawaii at that moment doesn't care about Hawaii and is not working to perpetuate and sustain Hawaii. And that's the thing that irritates us. It's not the rubbish. It's not the rubbish. It's the truth that the person throwing the rubbish, they're not even malama kuleana to take care of response. That's not even close to anything they remotely understand, and that is the issue.
Yes,
you know, that's the thing that just huli kana out, like our whole guts just flip all over inside. It's like mabara.
Yeah,
like who wouldn't ever just spend 127 years fighting to protect this land, and you can throw it your rubbish out the can.
It's always the principle of it. I think that's a good comparison. That it's the principle of everything. You know, no matter what you do, it's how you do it. That really matters. Yeah. But you brought up a word na'au, and I want to talk about that because that is something that, again, us Hawaiians, we follow. It's like how people follow your heart. We follow our na'au.
Right.
Because your na'au is your innermost being. You know, it's like that gut feeling. You know, if it feels wrong in your na'au, then you're not going to do it. If it feels right, you're going to follow it. So can you give us a little explanation, or can you tell us what is the connection between Hawaiians and our na'au? Yes.
And so if you look at the word na'au and what it means, it references the intuition. It references our spiritual relationship and the unseen relation that we have to knowing things. But na'au literally translates to intestine. And so for Hawaii people, ikawakahiko, or in the olden days, right, we put things into our na'au through our feeding holes, which are our mouths, right? And the only thing we eat, like all of the things we ate at one point, was only pono. All of the things we ate, we grew. All of the things we ate, we raised. All of the things we ate, we prepared ourselves. And so when you were talking earlier about Hawaiian food not being the local plate lunch, but the kalo and the ulu, it's not just the food itself that we're consuming, but the energy of the preparation of the food with our ohana. And like the fact that my papa grew this ulu tree before I was even thought of, and now I'm eating the ulus. Like that's the energy that you're consuming in your na'au.
Yeah.
And so our intuition has a direct relationship to the food we eat, like as Kanaka, for us to actually consume eatable food. That's important. But anyway, as an extension of that, we are also when we aipono ana, when we eat foods that are good for our body, our ancestral foods, we're filled with yes, the chemical like production that our kupuna were filled with, but also the mana. Yes, the power that came through the processing. And I mean the processing of the food from not the machines, but from the people,
hands.
From the hands.
And you huli kalima ilalo.
Yes.
You put your hands down and you do work.
Yes, kako. Huli kalima ilalo means to flip your hands to the ground. And so the na'au, or being na'au led, it means to follow your intuition, but it means to kind of like follow your root, like to follow your truth, and to really develop that as an extension of your relationship to your food, and the source of your food, which is Hawaii Aina, and the relationship that Hawaii Aina has to the people that you come from. So, you know, being na'au led and following it's not following our heart for us. It's like following our guts, following our gut, involves just an incredible commitment to connection, like ancestral connection, you know, and that's something that needs to be developed. Like we gotta kind of harness that. And I think some keiki are able to do that at a really early age, you know.
And some other people have to, like you said, develop it and discover it at a later age, like myself.
For sure.
I had all the resources in front of me. I had the kupunas. I had the education. I had the history, but I never really cared for it. So it wasn't until I left and I saw the importance of Hawaii and my culture is when it really kind of started to flourish and it stuck with me. Do you think that you have to be Hawaiian to have that connection? Because I don't want to create this, segregation where it's like, oh, only Hawaiian people can feel this now. Only Hawaiian people can really have this connection to the land, because I don't think that's necessarily correct. But do I think we have a stronger connection? Yes.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think you have to be Hawaiian to experience Hawaii. I don't think you have to be Hawaiian to develop what's right in your na'au. And I think that actually ties into the mauliola aspect.
Which is your username on Instagram.
So on Instagram, my username is mauli.ola. It's a little bit like of a platform that I use to mobilize people in like when we got to do things. But mauliola is like, it's hard to describe, but it's like the root of your cultural identity. And so I don't believe, short answer, I don't believe you have to be Hawaiian to understand or to be led by your na'au, because I think everybody has a very specific cultural root in relationship to the people that they come from. And lately, I've had conversations with people who were displaced from their lands, like people who were stolen from Africa and people who were like fleeing from concentration camps and people who were just not safe in their own homeland. So they had to flee. And that's not like, anyway, what I'm saying is that when people are close to their mauli or to the essence of who they are as a cultural being, we meet. We meet. So for example, the word for God in Hawaiian is akua, and the word for God in Arabic is Allah. But if you look at the description of Allah, and if you look at the description of Akua, and if you look at the description of God, they look a lot alike. Like if you don't look at the word or the name, but if you look at the description, you know. So anyway, I guess what I'm kind of getting at is that we all know how to like we all come from a very specific truth, and when we find our own truth, a lot of times we meet. A lot of times we meet, you know. So I don't know if that really makes sense to you or anything, but I really feel really strongly that everybody, it's fine. Come to Hawaii and, you know, love and peace, and I feel like this is my home. Okay, great. But how does that help you learn more about yourself and the people that you come from and the culture that you come from? Because Hawaii is like a really recently colonized people. I mean, in relationship to others.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's like, cool, you're here not because you like Hawaii, but it's because you like your own root, like your own, you like your own self.
Or the beaches. And, you know, I think there's a lot of vanity involved in that, you know, posting to Instagram. Here I'm at,
for sure,
in front of a waterfall. I'm chilling at these beautiful beaches. It's paradise and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
if you think of that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
I was thinking, like, if you think of that, we all come from that pristine Aina. We all come from that. Like, whether it's the cliffs of Aotearoa or like the landscape of Ireland, or like Ireland people are like extremely culturally rich. I don't know. I just had a session with Ireland people, but
awesome.
It's like we all come from this really rich heritage, and I really urge people who come here and like marvel at our pristine nature to remember all nature was that way before. So how do we sustain the nature in Hawaii? Like, people forget that part.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, come. Like the question is, oh, you know, the narrative is, I love, you know, this is what brought me to Hawaii. This waterfalls and this beautiful people. This is what brought me to Hawaii. Okay, what do you bring to Hawaii? What do you bring to Hawaii in order to sustain this environment? Because if we're not careful, all the people that are coming here and developing these different whatever developments are going to make Hawaii look like all the other places. You know, so it's just something that we have to be super maka'ala about or aware of.
Preach,
you know,
preach. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can just, this is like super portals, like all these portals that we're going through. And I think not a lot of people get to talk like this because they try to just stay with the program, you know. Just, I really appreciate this podcast. And
Mahalo. I appreciate you sharing this. I really want to have this podcast so we can create this space where people can talk about things not just on the surface level, you know. That's what, you know, like I said, with real talk, you know, we have real talk all the time, you know. What is real talk? But having these deep conversations and going beneath the surface and diving into things that you only talk about at 2 a.m. in the morning. But we don't need 2 a.m. to activate these conversations. And so that's my biggest thing with the podcast is, you know, sharing your truest self on a deeper level and connecting with people, because we don't, in this society, these days, we don't have many opportunities to sit down for an hour and a half and just talk with people without going on our phones, you know. And I you know, attribute that to my time in Madagascar when I lived in the middle of nowhere with no electricity, no running water, no Wi-Fi, and all you have is a human connection. All you have to do is learn about that culture. You speak the language, you know, you immerse yourself in a culture so deeply that you end up seeing the world differently. So I think that is what people should be doing. You know, I don't want to tell people what to do, but to really understand the land that you are on, you have to immerse yourself in the language, the culture, the food, everything. You know, you can travel to some place for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even a month, and it's so different when you live there and you live with like the people and you speak with them. You see a different side of everything. So I really hope that people, if they do want to come here, do it respectfully, do it with the purest intent to, you know, reciprocate what this land is giving to you, not just take, but to also give. And learn about our people.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the biggest thing. And sorry, I kind of went on a tangent.
No,
over there,
that's a good tangent.
Yeah, it's right from my no.
Yeah, it's pretty it kind of concludes or like puts into, it makes it concise, kind of what the things that we're talking about. And I think that some people, just to add on to that quickly, some people think that learning about the people and the culture is enough. It's not. Like, you need to, the last step or like the next step is taking what you learn and using it to activate your service.
Yeah.
Like the way you are in service to Hawaii Aina and to Hawaii people, both at the same time, not
action.
one over the other. Yes, action.
Yeah,
that looks like mutual aid. That looks like Venmoing Kanaka people who need the money. No, I'm not even kidding. Like, it looks like that.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it looks like that. That immediate, that direct, that true, that committed. Like if you're gonna buy a coffee, buy one for a Kanaka every time you buy a coffee, my brother.
Yeah, support local. Support
You know what I'm
local.
saying?
That's what we're all about here at Hawaiiverse.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And talk about supporting local. We just want to give a shout out to Shaka Tea, our drink sponsor here on the podcast. Locally grown and drank Mamaki cold brew here in Hawaii. They're so awesome. The business owner and their whole team, they're just awesome people. So make sure you go check out Shaka Tea.
Shaka Tea.
We got lots more to get into, but I want to dive right into the Instagram questions because there are a lot of people who want to pick your brain just like I do.
For sure.
So we'll go right into that after I take a quick sip. Okay. All right, so Instagram questions. This one comes from Kawailani Ke. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong. How do you balance being Hawaiian and Christian?
How do I balance being Hawaiian and Christian?
Yeah,
I think that's a...
real quick, I just want to give people a little background. So
For sure.
Why that is a question, because why is being a Hawaiian and Christian wrong, you know? And that's because there's just a lot of contradiction to that question, right? Being Hawaiian and Christian.
Yeah.
So
I just really want to give a huge shout out to Auntie Pulama Collier. She created this really epic document, and it's not published yet. So I don't know. Auntie Pulama, if you're listening to this, please publish that document pretty soon because we all need it in order to understand Akua. And so Auntie Pulama put together this like continuum or like this kind of taxonomy or this kind of categorization of time. And it talks about the different phases of Hawaii history all the way from the first like migrations to this land base. And so anyway, long story short, our evolution consists of a spiritual and religious like conformities. Like at one point when we migrated here, we were, I don't know, some people call it like like there was just like we were just one with the being that was the just we were just very connected to nature. And then there was Pa'ao that came, and Pa'ao introduced human sacrifice and the idea of multiple gods or delineating like, okay, this is a god, this is a god, this is a god, you know. And then Christianity came and was like, no, there's only one God. And then at that point in time, or by that part of our evolution, we had already developed a very strict and existing religious base based on our relationship to these akua or these, I don't know, some people use the word gods, but it's not deities, but natural phenomena.
Okay.
Like the sun. Like we had a very deep relationship with the sun as back when we got to Hawaii to begin with. And then I guess I brought up Auntie Pulama's work because she helps us to understand, or anyway, I understood her work to say that like in the beginning, we were just very close to Aina. We were just very close to land and nature and water and ocean and these natural things that existed that helped us to survive. And a lot of people were that way. A lot of different cultures of people were that way. But then there was this first colonization. Some people call it the first colonization.
When was that?
I don't know what year, but it was like the Pa'ao thing. The thing when Pa'ao came from another part of Polynesia.
And before that, it was Io. Was that the
I think
original?
some people call it Io.
Okay.
Yeah, like and actually Io, it just means
Io.
over there. Like like just
I didn't think
wow,
about that.
Nana Io.
Yeah. So that would be, he would be considered like Jehovah.
Some people would say that.
Okay.
Some people would say
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
Like,
I'm just
there's-
trying to compare so
Yes,
people can have
so
a better grasp.
That's
of
what
we're
I'm
talking
saying
about.
is that some people would say that that first when we migrated here, there was like we didn't know about Jesus or anything like that. I think I don't even know if Jesus happened yet. Like it was
Yeah,
like
who knows? Yeah.
I don't know about the years or anything. I just want Antipulama to publish that paper, but anyway, the idea is that people forget our original religion, which was Aina. Like people forget what our original religion was, which was aloha for each other and our environment. Like people forget that.
So is this before Pele, Hi'iaka, Ku, like?
So
all
like
these-
the Pele and the Hi'iaka and the Ku, those are names that are attached to particular like deities that are attached to natural phenomena. So
like
the Pele and the
volcano,
So they all
Hi'iaka,
existed
water.
already
Oh, okay. I get
in
it.
that first the first religion. It's just that when Pa'ao came, now we call them things and worship them very
We
specifically.
labeled them.
Yeah.
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 okay.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yes.
when people don't understand things, they like to label things.
Yes. And
So
then
that makes sense.
that kind of at the same time that kind of like gives you a deeper relationship to that thing when you name it, you
Yeah.
know. But anyway, the question was, how do you balance being Hawaiian and Christian? And for me, because I've done my research and because like just as a side note, I'm a deaconess.
A what?
A deaconess. Like a deacon.
Okay.
And a deaconess.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
never heard
No,
that
I know. A
before.
lot of people don't know
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
But I'm a deaconess at Ka'uhane Hamalele o Kamala Malama Church. It's
In Keawekane.
yes,
Yes, that's
Keaukaha.
where my dad used to. Auntie Leafy.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
so that's like I think
brand.
Auntie Leafy's church branched off of our
Oh,
mother
okay,
church
okay.
before, but we're like right behind.
I
Auntie Leafy's
actually
church.
know which one you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's my so my tutu is the kahu over there,
Okay.
and we just so Papa Wise that I talked about before, he found it like he helped to develop the church in Kalihi in the early 1900s. So since then, every generation of my mo'oku auhau, we've been like Christian, quote unquote Christian, but we've been really dedicated to Akua. And so for me, there's no dichotomy. Like there's no separation. It's not hard for me to understand how to serve the Akua that I serve in church because I know like his many forms.
Okay. But in Christianity, you're not allowed to believe in other gods, right? Or praise other gods.
That's
right?
true.
So that's where the contradiction kind of
Right.
comes
So
in.
in my mind, and I think I really recommend a change. Change we must. I forget the auntie that wrote that. But it's a purple
Okay.
book. But it's a really really good book, and it really will help people to understand the religion thing and whatever law. But I understand in my mind, I understand and I conceptualize and I believe that Jehovah God is an articulation of Akua.
Okay.
And the Pele is not a different Akua. And the Jehovah is not a different Akua. It's a different name for the same Akua.
Okay. Yes.
You know?
I am following.
And so Allah is not a different Akua. It's a different name for the same Akua. So, and then that gets like Christians will be like, bro, that is not okay. I'm like, Mapara, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but like I said, because like if you don't do your homework about not quote unquote pagan religions, if you, not like the heathen, I don't mean do your homework on them. I mean do your homework on Hawaii and like who we were when we came here.
Yeah.
Like because I've done the homework, I have the license to believe that.
And you can give a counter argument and state your case for what you believe in. When somebody's like, well, you're not Christian.
Yeah, and then that's okay. Like, you can feel that way about me. It's my kai. Mabala. Enjoy. Like, whatever you need, you know.
Great attitude to have.
Tom T. Hall, he does this song that calls Me and Jesus. It's me and Jesus got our own thing going. Like, believe what you want to believe, Mabala. I'm good. Like, I'm good with me, you know. And I had this conversation with my dad and my tutu, and they're so scared for me. They're like, I'm just scared because what if you like I'm just they fear God, you know, and that's a really real thing. And I just mahalo that because it keeps us humble and it keeps us just really, really, truly open to like correction, I guess. But yeah, it's a long process that I went through in my life, and in the depths of my despair, like. It's just a lot of homework that I've done, but that's what I believe.
Oh yeah,
you know,
and it shows that you've done your homework. So yeah, so how you balance it is you just do what you always believe.
Yeah,
you follow
and you know when people have something to say, it's okay.
Okay,
like that's how I balance it. Is like I'm just very sure. Like I'm very sure in what I believe, and I'm also very fine to question what I believe.
Yeah.
And that's
great.
What some people are willing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that open-mindedness and the ability to not be able to judge others is really hard to have.
Yeah.
Especially when you have different ideologies.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but you know, just gotta let people do what they want to do,
yeah,
believe in what they believe, and you know, we'll live a happy life. That's what I believe.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so next question. If you could implement one policy in Hawaii today, what would it be and why? This comes from mahi.ai.mama.
Oh, mahi mama. Love you, Tita. I would say that everybody who has a really big, beautiful house, like...
I feel like I know where this is going.
needs to... the policy would be... Everybody who has a big, beautiful house needs to also afford a big, beautiful house for another kanaka. Because
please.
Then we would all live in big, beautiful houses. No, but honestly, the policy would be that, and I'm just dreaming here, I guess. And at the same time, it's a very realistic thing that could happen. But the policy would be that kanaka maoli, like Hawaii people, Oiwi people,
Native Hawaiians
from this land, koko, not local. Like different.
Koko over local.
Right. And so the policy would be, and just aloha for all, you know, for sure. But the policy would be that people with koko have a different, like a higher status in Hawaii, period.
Yeah, well,
and
we do. We come from the elites, from the kings.
You know, we do. And a lot of us come from Maka'ainana who are also awesome. Yeah. Like, also really, really important.
Even though they were like the commoners, but they were still very important.
Important to the
ecosystem of Hawaii.
Right.
From Mauka to Makai.
So the policy would look like, I'm going to the movies and I get to go in for $2 or something like
it's like military
or
discount.
no dollars. Yeah, you know, and actually it would also look like people letting me cut in line because I'm Hawaii. Like
it's almost like Kama'aina discount, but way better.
Yes.
You don't need a Hawaii license.
And also not a discount like a hello, we were here first kind of thing. So just like an across the board acknowledgement of the heva that had happened in this aina, and a personal commitment from everybody who lives in Hawaii to figuring out steps to repair the trauma that's still happening because of that.
Yeah.
Like that. So the policy would be that every single person that lives in Hawaii has to be committed to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Like that's the policy. You know,
that's awesome.
Yeah, you know, and there's different ways that the policy will look. Everybody, so vote for me, governor.
Let's go. You got my vote already.
No, but honestly, and there's a quote that says, "What's good for Hawaii's is good for everybody," and I really, really support that. It's a whole nother conversation, and it's not hard. It's really fun. Like it's really fun to privilege Hawaii people and Hawaii worldview.
I'm sure everybody listening to this with Koko Hawaii is totally in support of that.
Yeah, kako, and also a lot of people who don't have Hawaiian blood are in support of that.
Yeah, I think because they recognize the status or like how important it is to be Hawaiian from your native land.
Yes, and to be thriving in Hawaiian, you know. I just wanted to give a super huge shout out to the Colab, KOLAB. We're on Instagram at Colab Hawaii. I just opened a business in Kona, and it's like there are 7 of us who are Wahine business owners, and 2 of us are Hawaii, and the other of us are multicultural.
Nice.
But we're a co-working space. That's our shell. But the Pico and the EV, like the center and the bone structure and the meat of who we are as a business, is that we're a center for people who are non-native to come to learn about how to be and live ethically in Hawaii. And so just kind of reach out to us if anybody has any questions, any more questions about like foreign role, like being a foreigner in Hawaii and how to do that ethically and, you know, all these things.
I love that. I really love that. Yeah, go check them out. Go check them out. I just want to add this little tidbit before we move on, is that I always thought, and something I only figured out when I was in Madagascar, is that only people from Madagascar can buy land.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Even I think it's the same in Aotearoa.
It is.
Yes.
As far as I understand, it is.
in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I wish we had that same policy
Me too.
for Hawaii.
Me too, definitely. Oh. And I'm just like, and also soda, and also water, and also cookies. If you want to buy anything, no, I'm kidding. Yeah. But I also kako that policy. Okay, yeah. Yes, I think
we don't have to go into it too much, but that's just what I always thought.
I mean, you could lieutenant governor. Like,
let's go. I will definitely back you up. Okay, so you spoke about your business, and we'll get back to Instagram questions, but we're getting close to the hour mark, so I just want to do our local business shout out real quick.
For sure.
Every episode we do a local business shout out, and then when the episode comes out, we pair it with a giveaway. So this local business shout out goes to Local Kind Things. Kirsten runs it, and I just met her recently at one of our Hawaiiverse pop-ups, and she is giving away a green tea and passion orange candle. So these are super cool. They're one of my favorite products that we have on Hawaiiverse.com. It's you know those like Aloha Made Hawaiian Sun juice cans. So
I just made a reel about that.
So it's so cool because she has these soy wax candles. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay. I just thought soy and wax, 2 different things, but soy wax. Okay.
Yes.
Soy wax candles that she puts in these juice cans, and they smell exactly like it. It's so nostalgic. Like every time I smell the passion orange green tea or the strawberry guava drink, it smells just like it. It makes you want to eat the candle or drink the candle. But we're giving away 2 of those, and then we're also going to be giving you one as well.
Oh, mahalo.
So go check them out, Local Kind Things. And when this episode comes out, you're already listening to it. Go to Hawaiiverse on Instagram and enter the giveaway. Okay, so back to Instagram questions. We got 2 more, and then we'll move on. How do you holomua when ka'eha o kana'au becomes overwhelming? And this comes from Lei Kalele. And holomua is like to move forward, to progress. And then ka'eha is a hurt in your na'au. So just wanted to let the listeners know.
Yes. Yeah, so, mahalo.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Was there like a supplemental question to that one?
So how do you holomua when ka'eha o kana'au becomes overwhelming? And then you're right. Yes, there is a supplemental question. And this one comes from CLS_pictures. How do you not live in depression when all the heva stuff going down? Heva is like wrong, like unjust thing.
Yes. So
those 2 questions, maybe if you can answer.
I really, really mahalo those questions. For a lot of the people who follow me, you guys know that I'm mostly frontlining. Like I'm mostly like my Aloha Aina work is like being on the front line of like to be unarrestable or to be submitting testimony or to be like involved with the protection of land and water. You know, a lot of people know me to do that. Some people know me from my music or whatever. But it is really hard. Like it is really hard for a Kanaka Maoli and then Kanaka Maoli, like for a person who's connected to our Aboriginal root, not just through the knowledge that we have in our brains, but through the things that we feel in our gut. Like for people who are ancestrally and intrinsically connected to the land that is being occupied and polluted and contaminated, and all of these things that we protect our land from, it's like desecration to the body, to the physical body. And so staying out of depression is not easy, and sometimes it doesn't happen. Like I go through bouts of depression often. I've been medicated. I've been through years and years of therapy. I've been through the suicidal ideation tract, and that's very normalized for me. Like I know a lot of people. I don't know a lot of people who haven't been in those situations, and I just want to honor the fact that like being Hawaiian in Hawaii is pretty heavy these days, especially when we're not connected to our traditions or our practices. Yeah, traditions is not a good word. Like when we're not connected to our practice. So the question was, how do you deal with that? What was the first?
How do you move forward when the hurt in your becomes overwhelming?
Yes.
And then how do you not live with that depression and hold on to all the wrong stuff going on?
Kako, I really hope that people are really listening in, especially Aloha Aina people or people who love our land. First, it takes a really strong group of like a support system. I have a best friend. She's been my best friend since we were 8th grade. Her name is Kainoe. I have my kua.
Shout out to Kainoe.
Shout out to Kainoe for sure. I also have like these strong auntie people that support me, not just emotionally and not just spiritually, not just through pule, like actual chants. Like they will actually chant when they will chant me through my depression.
Wow.
And so not just that, but they also support me politically. So they're like these intel masters that help. Like all of the wise stuff I say, I got it from them. Like they taught me how to say these things.
Awesome.
They taught me how to understand these things. So akahi, first it's that support system. Like we gotta tap into each other. We gotta really make space to hold each other. I have like Heoli and Malia. They're really important to my support system. There's of course my mom, my tutu, and my papa, my dad. Like my dad's mom, my tutu. Like, and then there's that level of support, the actual physical humans, and then comes the pili na aina. Like the relationship to land. So it's not a and somebody asked me this question actually. It's not a thought. It's not an idea. Pili na aina. Like relationship to land is not a hypothetical thing. It's a real thing. Like we talk to the mountain and we chant to the mountain and to the water and we like have conversations with the trees. That's pili na aina. Not as like a hippie person talking to the trees, but acknowledging that the tree is an ancestral articulation of yourself and the people that you come from.
Yeah.
So knowing that and also including aina as part of your support system. Learning the chants. Was one of the first things that pulled me out of suicide. Like out of that I'm gonna kill myself. Like I remember on Polkane, like on this particular moon phase, I used to at 3 o'clock in the morning on what I found out later was a Polkane, which is a particular moon phase, like I said. I remember like bawl crying, just like all the eha, like all of the pain of all the heva things, all of the pain of our community members being addicted to drugs and like family members being addicted to drugs without a way out. All of the pain of the occupation of our aina and the pollution of our land and the pollution of our air and the contamination of our keikis drinking, all those things just would come together and sit on my chest. And on those nights, I would just bawl and bawl and bawl and bawl. And so I would go to Loko. I'm telling you exactly how to get out. Like I'm telling you exactly how to find your way out of that depression and out of that suicidal ideation space. So at 3 a.m., bawl crying, I would force myself to get to my kai, like to get to my ocean, like get to my water source, get to that for me, it's the kane of it because my waters are like brackish. The aqua is named kane. But anyway, I would get to my sacred waters, my special waters, if you don't have a relationship to the word sacred. And I would stand in the water and chant until I stopped crying. So you have to learn those chants. Like you gotta know e homai and know what it means. You gotta know na o makua, know what it means, and then do it until you stop crying. And do it until the ikaika comes, until the ike comes, until the maupopopono comes, until the ike papalua comes. And like we have to chant, and that's part of those are the, sorry, for people who don't know.
This is I'm visualizing everything and it's giving me chicken skin.
It's so important. You know, I wish I spent more time talking about this, but
well, they can just follow you and hopefully
yes, for sure. But for those of you who don't know, those are the lines, the actual lines in the chants. Eho maika ike, eho maika ike, eho maika ike. Do it. What does it mean?
Oh, it's like to give the knowledge.
Yes. Eho maika ikaika.
The power, the strength.
Eho maika akamai.
The knowledge,
the smartness.
Smartness,
you
yeah.
know,
I didn't know another word, a synonym for knowledge.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like the discernment, you know, like the ability for me to see myself.
Yeah.
Like ke akamai, eho mai ka maupopopono, like the ability for me to understand what's right from wrong.
Yeah.
And what's necessary for me to do in my life, because pono means necessary too, not just righteous.
Yeah, my middle name is Kupono.
Oh,
yeah.
Here we are.
It's funny. It's funny that sometimes when you speak a foreign language, or to us, it's our native language, but you know, like you grow up speaking a language, you know what it is, but it's hard to explain it in English.
It is.
Does that ever happen to you?
For sure,
it's like, I know what, akahai means. I know what blah, blah, blah means, but it's like somebody asks you to tell it in English, and I'm just like, well,
it's because of the difference in worldview.
Yeah.
And so when you try to translate Hawaiian to English, like you rip away a whole context and you don't get it until you learn Hawaiian. So everybody learn Hawaiian, everybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was talking about like how the process is to learn these chants, like equip yourselves with these actual chants. They're on YouTube, Kako. Like you can literally YouTube it and learn it.
Yeah.
But we gotta have these chants in our toolkit so that we can do it through the trauma, like through the pain, through the hardship, because those are the things that will save us. And then it's like submerging myself into the ocean. Puhi, mano, vana, I don't know. Like sharks, eels, I don't know what's in there.
Yeah, sea urchins, whatever.
I'm like deep in pule, okay? And I just like, that's it. That's my practice. And honestly, when the Bible delineates and articulates God, like as a savior, as a person who is all knowing and all powerful, that process is exactly what that is. Like it's a saving, you know? So just a little bit of insight into like how it's not separate for me. So when I'm doing those things, when I'm calling on ancestral knowledge, it's not separate of my relationship to Akua, to God. It's the same process.
So your belief, your religious belief helps you through everything.
Everything. So
that's
everything.
A big
Yes. And it's really my spiritual belief.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really close, like Kawila Nui Makeahai Kalani Kiali Ikanaka Ole o Heidi Lani is a really important person to my life. On Instagram, he's at Tiny Kuahu or at 4Wila. But he is very Pele. He was raised in the Pele tradition and the Pele practices. And I am very like a Jesus person. I'm the Jesus person. So like, but we're very close. Like we're very, very close. And there are a lot of things that we like not disagree on, but it's just, it doesn't make sense when we're talking face to face, like skin to skin. But when we're talking bone to bone, there's no dichotomy. There's no separation. And so it's like, it's not hard. It just takes some work, you know, to understand. Yeah. But that's how I answer that question. It's pule. It's a support system, knowing your pule and doing them until you're out of the depression, you know. But I also support actual therapy, like clinical therapy, with somebody that you find that is a good fit for you. I also kako'o medication when you need it, depending on you know, depending on your body and things. But yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to say mahalo and, thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable, opening up about these issues, because it's something that isn't talked about enough. And we should be normalizing this, not just on this podcast, but on social media. Social media is a platform where we should be sharing what's real and not just things on the surface level. So can I give you a hug?
Yeah,
I just want to give you a hug.
for sure.
No,
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
No, okay.
Mahalo just for sharing that. And some people need to hear that.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know the impact you might have on somebody else's life. Somebody could be listening to this and be going through a really tough time, and just because they hear you right now, that could be the help that they need, or the thing that they need to hear. So that's what I'm thinking about when I hear that, is how impactful that this is going to be on somebody else's life. That's why I just wanted to give you a hug. And it takes a lot of courage and bravery to be able to do that, especially on such a big platform,
Yeah, it's really, so this tattoo, I know we didn't get to do the tattoo.
Yes, and I know people are dying to know about the tattoo.
For sure.
Explain the tattoo, and I also want to hear, I want people to hear you sing, so I want you to play a song.
Okay, for sure.
I told you to bring your ukulele, so right after this, she's going to perform a song.
For sure. My tattoo came in like an akaku, and it's a really long story that we can talk about another time, but I just wanted to say that I just wanted to mahalo ikaika kahui opua kalani mahi for blessing my face with these markings that I would carry until the day I die. Ikaika is the grandson of Abraham Mahi, who is the kahu, or the head pastor for our church in Waimea. And my tutu is the head pastor for our church in Hilo. So we're related through that genealogy. But Ikaika is also a Hawaii. And I don't want to speak on behalf of him religiously or spiritually, but that's how we know each other, through that kind of lineage, that religious lineage.
Okay. And for those who are just listening to this and they don't have a visual feed, or they haven't seen Kule on her Instagram, she has these two lines like right under her bottom lip, going down to her, right before her neck, like underneath her chin. And so that's what we're talking about. It's a really cool tattoo.
Yeah, there's a tattoo on my face.
Yeah.
Yes, and there was a huge process to come with it, but I feel like the thing I want most people to know, or it's deep kuleana, like to ask somebody what the markings on their skin mean. Like it doesn't come without an offering. Like it doesn't come for free. Like people will not just tell you what their markings mean. And it's multifaceted anyway, and we wouldn't have enough time to talk about it even if we're here another 2 hours. But it comes with a deep kuleana, and there was an E, like and side note, I encourage people to say Hawaii Island instead of Big Island, but an E is like a commandment, or like a saying that is not I say something. It's like I say something and I mean it, my brother. Like it's an E is it's a commandment.
Yes.
And so
I
polole and vahi akapaipala pela. Like when Jesus talks to people, or when Allah spoke to Muhammad and Muhammad wrote the Quran, like that's an E. Like it's something that generates great long change. Okay, so anyway, there was an E that was attached to the dreams that I had with lines on my face. So anyway, linearly, it was like once upon a time I didn't have these lines on my face, and I was just like, I was sleeping around a lot, and I was just like doing a lot of like things that were not pono, in alignment with who I was supposed to, like who I am, and what my kuleana is, what my responsibility is. And during that time, I had these, throughout my life, I had these 3 akaku. And people can look into what an akaku is. It's kind of like a vision or like a dream when you're not sleeping. That's like the best way that I can kind of explain what that is. But I had 3 of them. And the third time I had this akaku, I was like looking in the mirror, and I saw myself with these lines on my face. Wow. And I didn't understand what that was supposed to be. And they were just lines. They were just plain lines when I saw them in the mirror. But the third time I got them, I was kind of close to Wailuku River. I just got back from the gym. It was really a huge part of who I was to just be really active in the gym, and I was just more fit before. But anyway, I just come out of the gym, and actually it was the first time I'd gone there in a long time because I was on the Mauna and doing all these things. But I pulled down the visor in my van, and I saw myself with those lines. And when I woke up, like out of my akaku in the moment, I drew them, like there was an eyeliner in my van, and I think it's still there, that eyeliner that I used. But anyway, I drew the lines on my face. And when I saw them out of my akaku, because I had drawn them on my face before, like when I saw them. But when I saw them in the mirror, I started to cry because I understood. I don't tell this to a lot of people, but I was sick at that time. Like I hadn't moved, my na'au hadn't moved in like 5 days. Like that means like I hadn't like exported any of the things I had imported through my physical body canal in 5 days. Wow. And that's with what do you call those things? I know
what you're talking about.
It's like the thing, it's called what is it?
Somebody help us.
It's like it's not
Google.
It's not like an enema. It's like
laxatives.
the thing laxative.
Let's go.
Like let's go. Okay, but anyway, yeah. So that's with the laxatives. That's with the just not the teas, the detoxes, whatever. I just like my na'au wouldn't move, and so the third time I had it, I cried because I knew in my na'au that's why. Like I was ignoring this akaku, and I was ignoring these markings. And so when I internally accepted that this was going to be that this is what I was being called to do, I heard something specific, like an actual voice. Wow. And the actual voice said, I was like, Mama, I was literally crying to myself, looking at myself in the mirror with these lines on my face. And I was like, where am I going to work? Like, where am I going to work? I can't work at any hotel. I can't be a flight attendant. I can't work at Macy's. I can't work at, like all these places. I can't work at Kamehameha schools probably. They're not going to hire me. I'm going to have a tattoo on my face.
Shout out to Macy's. That was my number one spot to go in Hilo.
No, definitely. That's the only spot to go in Hilo for
good deals.
Nah, but yeah, I couldn't. I wouldn't be able to work in a retail store. Like, what? I can't get this on my face.
Then why do it?
Well, then I heard that voice. And the voice was, you're not supposed to be working in a retail store. You're not supposed to be working at a hotel. You're not supposed to be working at Ross or Macy's or Walmart. That's not where you're supposed to be, Kule. And all the years that I was doing that, there was something really like nagging at my na'au. Like, Stacey, I saw you buy that because I used to work at Ross. Like, you were just here yesterday. Yeah. Like, you don't need all this stuff. And it's all going to be thrown away anyway. I just know it. Just because it's 99 cents doesn't mean you need it. So anyway, all this accumulation of my na'au. I used to work at Olani. Yeah. Working at the hotel, it was just like, I know this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm here to make the money. And so the E was, you don't belong working at those places. You are to save my land and teach my children. Like that was the voice that I heard. And the land is not just the dirt, it's the aina. And the sustenance of the people. And the children are not just the keiki, but they are like the humans, like the kanaka, and like the people who are immature in their knowledge base. That's the children part. And so then I understood. So anyway, it comes with, and we didn't talk about what the tattoo means, because these are particular lines that Ikaika and I sat through. People are like, oh, that must have hurt. It didn't hurt. I went through this really long process of asking my skin. I didn't ask my family. I asked my skin. And I prepared my skin to receive these markings for the rest of my life. I vehed, which is a process that my ecclesia has, or my church. We have a process of the vehe. It's like you open the Bible and you do this deep prayer. I also prepared my family for a life of a granddaughter, a daughter, a sister, with tattoos on her face. Like, I prepared them and I let them know that this is what I was doing. And then I also recorded the va, like the first 8 va of the Kumulipo. I recorded it on my phone. I read it from the book and recorded it on my phone, along with Hemanono and like other olis. Wow. and I played it while I was getting the tattoo. And so I also really mahalo Hannah, my friend Hannah. She was there with me. But I mean, it's a long process, and it comes with deep kuleana.
Yes.
The kuleana was that I can't go into the bar and make like I don't know who I am. I can't like do the whole phase thing. I can't do that anymore. Like I have kuleana to my own body.
Responsibility to yourself and others.
And others, exactly. And to the markings that will be on my face. You know, and actually part of the vehe was that I agreed to use these markings every day, every single day, as a reminder to myself of my job to teach people about Akua. Like to teach people about what it means to know God.
Yeah.
Not through only the things I say, but through the things I do. And so it's not done. I have these things I need to fulfill before it's longer. So it doesn't stop at my neck, actually. There's more to be done as I accomplish more in my life. I'm glad I can just forward people to this podcast.
Yeah, tell them.
If you want to know, just
fast forward to,
Hawaiiverse.
I don't know, hour or something, but there's just so much to break down from everything you just said over there. I wish we had like 3 hours
I know,
to
for
talk
sure,
about this.
for sure.
But so your tattoo holds you accountable.
Yes.
So it's a way of kind of, it's a way to kind of ku'e, you know? It's like, oh no, I'm gonna get this tattoo because I don't belong in Macy's. I don't belong in doing these other.
It was more like I was supposed to get the tattoo, but I was hesitant because I thought I needed to work, and the calling was, you don't belong there. Like it wasn't that I don't belong there. It was I was told that I don't belong there.
Yeah, it almost sounds more like a spiritual thing than something that you couldn't control.
It is.
It wasn't really a conscious decision.
Right.
Even though it was a conscious decision, there was a lot of subconscious
Big
kind
time,
of things that
big
pushed
time.
you. Yeah.
And it's not really a choice. I didn't wake up one day and be like, I'm going to get this tattoo on my face. It's going to be awesome. You know, I didn't intentionally say, I'm going to ku'e the system and wear this tattoo on my face. That's not what it is.
Wow, that's so interesting.
You know, it was every single day I will not be able to ho'ole the kuleana that I have, to deny the responsibility that I have to this place.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's kind of that, you
That's
know.
very deep and meaningful. And, you know, Hawaiians are a very thoughtful and meaningful person. There's kauna to everything, like we talked about. And it's interesting because when I have one tattoo on my forearm, and one of the big reasons I got it was because I almost felt that pull, like it felt right. I never wanted a tattoo in my life, but I spent 3 years in the Peace Corps in Madagascar, and I felt like what I wanted to do, like my idea of what I wanted to do after finishing the Peace Corps was just to be a flight attendant.
That's what I wanted to.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I knew once you get a tattoo, you can't be a flight attendant because they don't allow that. So this was a big step in me telling myself, like, I can do much more than be a flight attendant. So it's kind of similar to yours, where it's like we were meant for something bigger.
Yeah, kako.
Because I remember speaking to somebody who's like, not saying flight attendant's a dream job, like that's such an amazing thing, but somebody told me, like, you can do more than that.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always felt that, you know, in my now growing up, and just like I'm meant to do something bigger, you know. And I just thought, like, this tattoo will kind of solidify, like, I literally cannot become a flight attendant if I have this tattoo.
Yeah.
So I'm meant to do more. I have to do more. It's like my reasoning to do more in life.
Yeah.
Because
kako.
I cannot do certain things because of the restrictions of tattoos. Yeah.
See, the difference is that I didn't know that for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was destined for more. I didn't understand. And I guess you started to talk about, you were mahaloing me for being so open. And that's why I tied in the tattoo thing, is because this is my job. Like, it's my job to be open. Yeah. Like, I've talked about, like, openly about the things I've done wrong, the mistakes that I've made, the ways that I've hurt people. And I'm very transparent, but it's because that's my job. Like, that's the E. Like, that's the thing that I'm supposed to do, and that these markings hold me accountable to. It's not about saving face. Like, that's also part of it. Is like, because I guess some people are like, that's a mutilation to your face.
Yeah.
No, it's not about my face. It's not about what I look like. It's about the oya i'o of how we all need to grow and what we all need to learn from. you know. So it's part of that too.
Yeah, and then
Super
we
multifaceted.
could also go into like Christianity, how you shouldn't have markings on your body, and like there's so many other things. So this is all just so interesting
I
to
know,
me. I
and
have
people
so
are,
many questions.
Hey, this girl at a concert was like, "Sis, what does your tattoo mean?"
Is it from New Zealand?
Sis.
You know, it looks Maori. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, just side note, Maori, I mean, in general, our tattoos are based on our carvings. Maori woods are softer that allow their carvings to have more curvature. Hawaii woods, like koa, are harder. So our carvings are more straight lines. So Maori tattoos, like their carvings, will be curved. Like the koru, like the moko of the Maori is like curved. There's curved circle lines like that. But my tattoo is not anywhere near that. So when people look at my tattoo and are like, "Are you from Aotearoa?" Just because I have a tattoo on my face, it's like, you have to really pay attention to what the heck you're asking. Like, you can't just ask, my brother, do some research. You know what I'm saying? But anyway.
Oh, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to break all this down after this podcast, but I want you to be able to, you know, express yourself musically for the audience before we start to wrap up. So would you mind playing us a song?
For sure. I can do that.
Yeah, if you can get your ukulele. Can you tell us what you're going to sing for us?
Sure. I'm like, any requests?
Any requests? Anybody? Something that comes from your na'au, something that, you know, just speaks to you and speaks to others, something like that. Whatever feels right and pono.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so here on the Hawaiiverse podcast, exclusively on the Hawaiiverse podcast, ku'ulei, Perreira, Keawekane.
Here we are. This song is called the 3-String Uke. This is actually the first song that I ever wrote with an ukulele.
Oh, nice.
It comes with a pretty cool story about an actual ukulele that has actually only 3 strings. It wasn't made that way. I just was wondering if the fingernail clipper was stronger than the string. It was. And so then it was only 3 strings. And I was young, so I didn't know how to change it, and it was just a 3-string uke. And then I wrote this song. The term vanana comes to mind, but I wrote the song, and then every time I put another string on it, it comes off. So it's still just a 3-string uke. It belonged to my grandma Tepa, who is daughter of John Henry Wise. So I just really mahalo this song.
Okay, so is this about the future or the vanana?
You know, I didn't think any of this. I didn't want to be any of these things when I wrote it. I just wrote it. I must have been 12, I think, or 13 or something like that. And I hope I can remember it.
All right, well, take it away.
Yeah, here it goes. Sitting here playing with my 3-string uke, trying to play the song that I would learn from the book. 13 years old to get more in life for look. Planning for add one other string to this uke. La da 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 la da 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 da. 10 years later, I just look where I stay. College studying about the old Hawaiian way. Still get my 20-something-year-old ukulele. Put them in my hands and I start to play. Sitting here playing with my 3-string uke, trying to play the song that I would write for the book. 23 years old, so get more in life for look. Planning for add one other string to this uke. La da 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 da. 20 years later, I just look where I stay. Hawaiian language teacher at the university. Still get my 100-something-year-old ukulele. Put them in my hands and I start to play. La da 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 da. 20 years later, I just look where I stay. Retired old Hawaiian with 2 grandbabies. Sitting with my mo'opuna, Ui, and Duke. Trying to teach them how to play one 3-string uke. La da 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 la da 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 da. Plenty years later at my funeral. funeral time. My mo'opuna no better than for Christ. So instead of weeping on a nice carpet, they bust out the tree string ukulele. La da 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 da. Woo! Yeah, tree string uke.
I love that. That's such a fun song.
Cute, yeah. And at the
Yeah,
time,
that's
I
very
didn't
cute.
know I wanted to be any of those things. I didn't know much about Hawaii stuff. I wasn't anything, you know.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, super cute. Mahalo.
Yeah,
I don't think
mahalo for sharing
that's
that.
available. That's not available on YouTube. That's not available on iTunes. That's not available on Spotify. I don't usually sing it.
Oh, only here on the Hawaiiverse
Kind of only here. Yeah, kind of only here.
podcast. Wow. Great. That's so great. Mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo.
Okay, so as we wrap up, we just have a few more questions. What are your thoughts on social media?
Yeah, social media is a super powerful thing. That mana can be used either way. It's something that can strip you of your identity and like plop you into a hole of nothingness for days at a time. It's something that can literally debilitate you. It's something that can aid in assimilation, like in the assimilation of our people. Because when we look at things and watch things over and over again, it consumes us and changes the identity of who we are if we're not careful. But social media also has the power to mainstream Hawaiian consciousness, which is a really important part of Native Hawaiian health. Social media has the capacity to spread actual knowledge, like actual vocabulary, actual teachings, actual ike kupuna ancestral knowledge, you know. So it really depends on how we use it, and we have to be really disciplined when we kind of do that. But that's my thoughts on social media.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great platform if we leverage it in the correct way.
Yeah.
And share very authentic things and not just these surface level
Yeah.
things that are very based off of vanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. I just wanted to know that. So what's your 1, 5, 10-year goal?
Okay. 1 year, I'm trying to do a big harvest. So that means to kind of like be really intentional with the kalo that I grow. I have to kind of pull out what I planted because I didn't do a good job at taking care of it. But in 1 year, I would like to harvest the food that I need to eat an entire meal. So I'd like to eat a meal that I grew myself and prepared myself.
Nice.
In 5 years, I would like for my Aina to be producing food regularly. And I would also like to have recorded an album with my dad. That's something that I kind of want to do.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and hopefully my tutu if she's down, you know. And in 10 years, you know, actually I learned recently that in Korean natural farming, it takes kind of like 15 years of applying Korean natural farming methods to your farm in order for it to be truly like thriving. And so I've been kind of looking into some Korean natural farming things, but it has a lot to do with my Aina, actually, not necessarily my business. I forgot to talk about the fact that I have a business.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about it right now?
Yeah, for sure. For anybody, you know, there's like a lightning round of questions that I definitely want to answer. But in addition to those, it's kind of like if you are interested, I also offer one-on-one consultations for people who have questions that need to be answered. Like they're not always like, no, I need to figure out how to do this. I have the means. I have the financial capacity to afford an hour with Ku'ule. I need to do that. That's totally my business. Like I do that regularly. I see clients regularly. I have a couple of settler clients. So people who came here and moved here from different parts of America. They come and they hire me to teach them things. So yeah, I mean, I also do language classes. I teach groups. I do Zoom sessions. I help people understand the deeper understanding or develop a deeper understanding of their own name. We do history stuff. It's like all kinds of things.
Nice.
So,
And do you have a degree for all of this?
I have an associate's degree, but that's like a super invasive question.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like there isn't really a degree for Ike Kupuna.
Yeah.
But so I guess the short answer is no. But I just actually today signed my job offer with the university again. I'm being super transparent because I think that's legal. As soon as I sign the paperwork after we get off of this podcast, I will be a cultural resource associate.
Wow, congrats.
No, mahalo. And I'm actually just getting my job back because of a lapse in pay because of HR stuff. But it's just a continuation of the job I already had. So I'm a cultural advisor or a cultural resource associate, also professionally through UH Manoa. I get paid for, I think the job offer is like $4,333 a month. And it's a full-time position for the next, 9 months. And I'm saying that because I don't mind being that transparent. And I think sometimes when people are like, oh, like you don't get paid a minimum wage job just because you don't have a degree. So the question was, do you have a degree for all that, right? No, but I have accomplished and done other things that provide enough merit for people to not pay me minimum wage. So like yes and no. You know?
Oh, okay. I'm happy you said that. I apologize for kind of throwing that question
no way.
at you.
I'm here for it.
But that's the response I wanted.
Yeah.
I should have prefaced it first.
Noise.
No, because I asked that because I wanted to hear your response to people needing these certain qualifications and being adequate at their job.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that you necessarily need a degree to be just as successful in something, in a skill, as somebody else.
What you need is a really deep relationship to Aqua. That's what you need.
that and maybe something that some other people can relate to, just like skill, knowledge in a certain field.
For sure. And also though,
you don't need a paper.
Like my boss is really, really committed to Aloha Aina things, and she's not Hawaiian.
Yeah.
So there's a formula. There's a formula. If you're gonna, and it's not. Both paths are stressful and exhausting in their own ways.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do things without a degree, because you gotta jump through all these hoops.
Yeah.
There was a lapse in pay. That was tough.
Yeah,
but for sure it's possible.
Yeah, I just want to commend you for getting that job, and I want to thank your organization for hiring you because you are definitely adequate and you will succeed in that job.
Yeah, just mahalo to Kat Burke. Just appreciate her. I also think I have to say that I'm not an official representation of any of those things.
Yeah, well
I'm just here talking about my own mana'o.
Yes, and it's all personal. If people want to get a degree, if they want a piece of paper, that's totally fine. But I know people who have accomplished a lot without one, and education is definitely important. And I have a degree, doesn't necessarily mean I'm using it.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot more that I can do where a degree just doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's the time and mana. When the manava, the time and the power that you put into, the life force that you put into getting a degree. You're going to spend all those years gaining the experience. Yeah. Mentoring under kupuna that you love, Yeah. So but just kako.
That's the biggest thing, is just gaining experience just through life, through talking with people.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, going to school. I think the experience of going to school, going to college is important, more important than the degree in itself.
Oh, I like that. I kako that so much. Yeah.
So that's how I always thought about it, and I just wanted to share that. Okay. I have a lot of things I'm going to ask you off podcast.
For sure.
But we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
I just want to, again, mahalo you for coming on today and sharing your mana'o, your ike, everything with us. I hope the listeners can really take away 1, 2, 3, 5, as many things as they can from this podcast. Maybe they can replay it. Maybe they share it with a friend. And maybe you go and support Ku'ule in her journey, in her music career, in her professional career as what was the title again?
It's just cultural advisor.
Cultural advisor. Then just support her as a person. She is a great human being, and we just want to support local people doing awesome things in the community. So, mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo ya'oi. I just also want to give a huge shout out to the fact that there are lots of free resources as well. So you don't have to hire me. Go look for what's free.
But if you can afford it,
for sure.
Go hire.
Let's talk. Yeah. Just mahalo to you, Kamaka, for the ways that you and Hawaiiverse are doing what you can to support local people and Hawaii people as well, you know,
Yeah.
to just stay afloat and be well. Just you guys are awesome, and mahalo for having me.
Yeah, mahalo to all of us. It's a kako thing. We're all in it together.
Oh, yeah.
So mahalo to Ku'ule for joining us on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Check us out on Hawaiiverse.com, the best place to support locals. Spread aloha, be kind to one another, and mahalo for listening to us today. New episodes every Thursday, so make sure you follow us and leave a review. I'm your host Kamaka, and you'll hear me next time on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Ahui ho.